okay, here comes our bell, bringing us to the Dharma. Letting the sound come to the ears, the pure sound arriving at the ears. As we were talking about just yesterday, I do believe, perceptions tend to always lead immediately to us identifying what we hear, see, feel, taste, touch at the sense doors. And so we might identify it as a pleasant or unpleasant sensation arriving at the ears. But for the sake of mindfulness practice, the purity of mindfulness, we want to be able to connect with what is happening exactly as it is. So we just have sound coming to the ears. Or if our eyes are open, it's shape and color that arrives at the eyes. Or the same thing with tasting and touching and smelling. The purity of mindfulness practice really serving us is to be less attached to, or notice how attached we are to immediately trying to identify something and make a perception out of it. And so we settle into this place that we're familiar with, our seat that we choose to sit at on a regular basis, to just be with the purity of the moment. What is happening right now as we settle into noticing the breath, as we settle into noticing our buttocks on the seat or the cushion, or we settle into noticing touching happening somewhere else with our bodies on the chair, or however we're leaning, or our touching of our arms or hands somewhere. So we really begin to bring ourselves into this very moment. To be with as best we can, with mindfulness, really noticing what is happening now. It's the truth of our own experience, and it's reached by understanding our experience, by penetrating through to its foundations. And that's why through this practice, if we want to really touch on the liberating truth, it has to be known directly. We know it by insight, by seeing clearly what's happening and noticing it, without a lot of analysis. We were talking yesterday about sati, the Pali word of sati, translated as mindfulness, and its presence of mind, attentiveness or awareness. In this case, awareness is applied. Really, the mind is deliberately kept at this level of bare attention, of noticing exactly, without a lot of extra storyline, what's happening in the present moment. And so we undergo this training of being in the present, open and quiet and alert, and contemplating the present moment that is arising, that mindfulness is aware of and awareness is there. And judgments and interpretations are suspended. Our perceptions we let go of. Or if they occur, which of course most of the time they do out of habit, we just register it and drop it. And so we just note whatever comes up, just as it's occurring. Coming back into the present. Just being here in the here and now. Without getting swept away by tides of distracting thoughts. And of course they do arise. And then we can notice thinking. One of the sense doors, the door of thought. We tend to attach a lot of significance to thinking. And we can watch that happen as we also notice hindrances that might arise, grasping at the thinking, wanting to continue thinking out something or reflecting on something of the past or future. But we want to become aware of the present in this precise way practiced with mindfulness, that we don't stay with a storyline of what's happening. Without interpreting things. The mind perceives the object free from our concepts, conceptualizing around it, even if it's just brief. But oftentimes we have that brief, momentary recognition, and then we grasp onto it and we launch into a course of ideas and conversations to interpret the object. And so we're sort of peeling away at those dense layers of ideas and views. Oftentimes, Zen poets get very descriptive about the moon through a layer of clouds. But we're just landing on the breath. We're just returning to the breath at the nostrils or at the belly. Or maybe we're using a touch point to bring us into this moment. Being present with the body, sitting on our seat, holding ourselves in kindness and compassion, and allowing the process to arise and pass away, arise and pass away with our awareness of it. Not just, oh, there it goes, oh, there it goes, oh, there it goes. We want to connect with it and be with it fully As we notice what's arising, we stay attached with it. As we've spoken before, we try to notice where we are in the process when we find ourselves becoming aware again. Can we ever notice actually the beginning of a thought or a sensation, or do we wake up in the middle of it? Can we stay with it until it comes to an end? Which gives us really the direct experience of anicca, of impermanence. And this is also where wisdom can arise. Wisdom can notice the defilements, which is usually the springboard for the embellishment of these fabrications of the mind. Wisdom can see that there's clinging or craving or pushing away. And so we return over and over again to mindfulness, bringing to light pure, direct experience in this moment, in its immediacy. As Bhikkhu Bodhi mentioned in the article that I referred to yesterday, the Noble Eightfold Path, the practice of mindfulness is a matter not so much of doing, but undoing. Not thinking, not judging, not associating, not planning, not imagining, not wishing. All of these doings are what he calls modes of interference, ways that the mind manipulates experience and tries to establish dominance. And so mindfulness undoes the knots and tangles of the doings by simply noting. It just notes what's arising, touches the experience, stays with it, sees it pass away. And so in this watching, there isn't any room for clinging and pushing things away and following our desires. It's this sustained contemplation of experience in its bare attention, moment to moment, as we are careful and precise and persistent in really seeing clearly what is happening right now. So we use the breath as the anchor. We can expand our awareness to each of the sense doors if we feel stable and not too flitting about with the mind. We can always go back to the anchor if the mind is restless, or we can keep the attention more open on what's arising at the sense doors. Usually hearing and touching are the most predominant, or the thought door. And we just begin again over and over, waking up present in this moment. And how is that for us? Is it okay for us the way it is right now? if we find the mind wandering, or we find ourselves uninterested really in what's happening right now, or maybe there's confusion, or whatever it is, it's all part of our human experience. We can always return to really what's most predominant, attending to the breath at the nostrils, or feeling the pressure of the belly from the diaphragm, and just knowing directly, breathing in feels like this, and breathing out feels like this, and this is really how it feels. We can feel the warmth, the coolness, whether it's a short breath or a long breath, or a jagged breath or a smooth breath. We train the mind to be interested and curious. What is happening now? To keep it from falling prey to all of the defilements, whichever one happens to be our current one at the time, which is just part of one of the sense doors, the thought door. There are other sensations happening at each of the other sense doors. Whether we're staying open to constantly changing moments, or whether we're staying directed at the breath, we just return to the present moment. What is the state of the mind right now? What is happening right now? Can I be with this just the way it is, and still be interested and alert, curious? Just a slight mental note of each thing that arises, without it being too loud in the mind, can help us stay a little bit removed from falling into what's happening. We can notice if we find ourselves spacing out or spacing in, as some teachers describe it. That mindfulness is a grounding function, and it anchors the mind securely in the present so that it doesn't float away into the past and the future with memories and regrets and fears and hopes. So as we develop mindfulness when it's strong, the mind stays with its object and penetrates the characteristics of it deeply, so that we can really see the impermanent nature directly. We can notice that it has no real substance, it has no sense of solidity. Anicca, anatta, and dukkha, the sense of discontent and suffering that arises when we grasp onto something, and we can see as we examine it with this stabilizing mindfulness practice that what we really see when we connect and sustain and see it clearly is that there's nothing to grasp onto. Everything is always changing. And mindfulness can help us not wander, not just skim the surface. We can begin to see that both serenity and insight are possibilities, that we can have deeper concentration or wisdom depending on the way that we apply it. But in our case now, for this short period of time that we have to sit, the use of mindfulness on changing objects as we see them arise helps us make sure that the mind doesn't really slip away from the object and lose itself in random, undirected thoughts that's so common for us to do. It can catch the hindrances sometimes before they arise and cause us too much harm. And so we just begin again each time, over and over, training, taming the mind, finding interest in what's happening, noticing the defilements that arise, noticing when the heart and mind is inclining toward the skillful, toward wisdom and kindness, mindfulness happening as we observe and note and discern phenomena that arise. over and over, beginning again in this moment, stabilizing the heart-mind, holding ourselves with gentleness and kindness. Seeing clearly as best we can what's happening right now. And are we okay with it? And if we aren't, what's happening? Where might we notice agitation or grasping or pushing away without judgment about it? It's just what's happening in the heart and mind right now. breath by breath, moment by moment, we return. We allow ourselves to be held in kindness. We open our field of awareness, our field of kindness to others and to ourselves, that we may be at ease, and that others who are close to us, friends, family members, teachers, benefactors, that we may let this process of inclining the heart and mind toward kindness and compassion to be held for ourselves and for others. So as we notice who might arrive in our minds when we incline them toward sending goodness, holding others in goodness within our hearts, we may notice a friend that appears, or a teacher that appears, or maybe we hold ourselves there. That there may be kindness and compassion and goodwill nurtured. As we envision a close friend, benefactor, teacher, whoever might occur, that it's easy to send this well-wishing and goodness, to include that in our hearts, to include them in this field of our metta. As we let this sense of kindness that we develop, and we realize that in sending it, we are also receiving it. It's strengthening our practice, that we hold in kind regard others that are near and dear to us, and we let it open to others that we don't know, those who may be neutral to us, someone we saw recently, somewhere in person or elsewhere, online in some way. Knowing that we all wish to be happy, we all wish to have causes and conditions of happiness. And this sense of happiness is really from our knowledge and experience. As practitioners, we really understand that suffering is caused by craving and by clinging. And we wish for ourselves and others to be free, to let go. To let go of what causes harm. And so we hold others in our heart. Those that are known and those that are unknown. Some may be difficult for us. But this ocean of metta, this ocean of goodwill and kindness, is not particular to a person. It is broad, spacious, open, boundless, and it holds everything. So in our relative practice of it, we have ourselves and a close friend, a benefactor, a neutral person. There might be a gently difficult person that shows up for us. Not any worldwide figures or anything, just someone that might kind of irk us a little. May we just touch them gently with this sense of kindness. They too wish to be happy, just as we wish to be happy. And may we let this kindness and goodwill flow to others that are known and unknown to us, those that are seen and unseen. many who are in suffering, and others who are in joy, enlightened and unenlightened, all beings everywhere. May they be free from harm, safe and protected, have ease and well-being. May they have happiness. May they know happiness and the causes of happiness, that of letting go of grasping and clinging. All sentient beings, those that swim and fly and crawl and walk, may all beings have ease in their lives. Be safe and protected. Be free from anxiety. Be free from distress. Anicca vata sankhara, upadavaya domino, upakitava meruchanti, te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence, and seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. Thank you for your practice, and may it bring you joy and happiness the way it brings me, just us being here and sitting, no matter what's happening in the mind, that we really can touch even just a little bit on the understanding that the merit of our practice, it's of great benefit to all beings. So thank you so much, and as we open our eyes and just sort of look around, and we remind ourselves that perceptions start coming to the eyes and to the ears, and we can notice with mindfulness and noting where we might attach ourselves to these shapes and figures, but also know that kindness is touching each other. So thank you for being here and for this practice that you so dedicatedly involve yourself in.